Good afternoon, everyone. It's December 31st, and it's this year could be never have to be repeated as far as, it's been an interesting year. But it's one I don't want to have to go back and repeat. And next year is actually moving into some even more uncertain times, and I think I want to reach out to the spirit realm to see what they can tell us about the energies of 2024 to help us navigate through this, because there's a lot of people that are suffering, a lot of people that are not, but there's a lot of people that are going through a lot of things, and it's hasn't been the easiest time to live in, for sure. And I know there's probably times that are much worse, but I think that's the problem, is that we built up a society, a really good society, that now is on the verge of, there's a lot of question marks around what that's going to look like. And it's making a lot of people very uneasy, very uncertain, not quite sure what to do next. Like, housing markets in North America have gone through the roof, and Canada is even worse than the United States. Average price of a home in the Yukon is between $700,000 or $800,000 for a 3-bedroom house. That's insane. Obviously, food's gone through the roof. Everything's gone through the roof. Rent's gone through the roof. So people are very concerned, and they have the right to be. And the governments don't seem to care. They just say the same thing over and over and over again and try to say that they're doing everything, and they're doing absolutely nothing to change it, because it does nothing except get worse. And it's interesting. We kind of know why it's happening, but nobody seems to care to correct it. And a lot of people are very, very concerned. So I want to see what Spirit can say to everyone to help them through this, and to maybe give them some understanding of what they can do themselves, or how we can go through this time the best way we possibly can. Because that's all we can ever do, is do the best we can. Or somewhere in between. We could be the worst or the best. It's like, there is no really wrong way of doing anything. It's just, what can you do right now? What can you do tomorrow? That's all you can go. Your life is like, literally, what can I do today? What can I do tomorrow? It doesn't matter what happened in the past, because you live in the past, it's going to drive you nuts. And you can't live too far in the future, because that's also going to drive you nuts. If anything, the best thing that we can do right now is live in the moment. More so than any time in history, because remember, we're growing up, and our parents are like, oh, you do this, 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 and this, and but that's all changed, man. Like, nothing is the way it used to be. Houses were affordable. Cars were affordable. And you could go get a decent job and have a decent wage, and then you have a house, you have a car, you have all this stuff. But now, that's becoming harder and harder and harder and harder to do. It's almost like, okay, how many people do we need to live in the house with us in order for us to afford it? This is what it feels like. How many people have to go to work now in order to be able to even afford to buy a home? Anyway, enough talking of that, and I just want to leave. It's just, I think some of the concerns in our lives overwhelm us. And I want to see what 2024 holds. It doesn't mean it's going to be better, but at least show us what it is that we can do, or what that looks like energetically, so we can kind of prepare as best way we can to go through this very interesting year that's coming up. And I believe 2024 is going to be very important for the future of humanity. I'm not exaggerating on that at all. I think 2023 was very important. 2024 is even more so, because of all the difficult things that human race is facing. It's compounded with everything that's happening. Like, it's almost like we're being bombarded by not just one thing, 50 things at once sometimes. And people are just struggling. Makes us stronger, but it doesn't make it easier. I want everybody to take a deep breath with me to release all the negative thoughts, negative energies, all the weight. Allow your muscles to relax, allow your mind to go be clear, and eliminate anything that's you're holding anger, grudge, frustration, anxiety. Set it all aside so you're able to receive this message the best way that you can. First thing I see is a man on a bench. He's not dressed very well, and it's cold, it's snowing, and he's freezing, and he's shaking. And he has like fingers exposed, but he has like the finger gloves that the fingers are cut out of them. And he's blowing on his hands, trying to keep his fingers warm, and he's shaking. And he has like a fall jacket instead of a winter jacket, and it's quite cold here. There's frost in the trees. And there's steam coming off the water is partially frozen. But it's really cold, and it's colder than you think because the water moves quite rapidly here. So the air temperatures is probably around minus 30, 40 degrees Celsius, and this man is freezing to death. And people walk by, and they don't seem to care. They don't do anything at all. They just watch this man on this bench trying to stay warm. And then as the night comes, the man slowly starts to move slower and slower and slower, and he falls asleep. The next morning, he's covered in frost, just like the trees. And there's an ambulance here, and the man's being pulled away. He died in his sleep, fell asleep and died that night. And all the people that walk by never see this man again and never even give him a second thought. But any one of them could have saved this man's life if they would have stopped and simply helped him, given him the proper clothes. And this man was 25 years old. He had recently come up from a warmer climate and didn't expect it to be this cold. All he was doing, he was looking for somewhere different, something better than where he was from. And this is the first thing that the spirit realm is showing us. And it moves, and I move into a different direction. Now I'm in the south. It's really hot. And it's the same thing. You have a man that's struggling, and he's dirty, he smells, his hair's matted, and his clothes are filthy, and he's bare feet, and nobody even wants to look at him. They just kind of walk away around him. And this man, again, night comes and he falls asleep and he dies of hunger. Not of exposure, of hunger. He dies of hunger. It's interesting that you think people don't die of hunger, but this man died of hunger in a city full of people. You could say this is Mexico City. This is what they're just giving me an example. It could be any city in the world. But this specific place was Mexico City. And this man died from hunger. And nobody helped him. Because everybody's so busy, they don't even see him anymore. They spend all their time looking at their phones as they're walking by. They don't want to see what's around them. They don't take the time to actually look. All they do is they focus on their own lives because they're struggling to try to even survive themselves. And I see a laughter, like a being kind of looking down through looks like a looking glass. It's a circular sphere, and he's looking at this, and he's seeing these people die for the most simplest things, and nobody's helping them, and they're laughing. And he's got a huge belly, and he's holding his belly, and he's just doing a gut-wrenching laughter. And it's funny. It's a joke. It's like, how much more can we screw with the human race before they really see what we're doing? And you see all these people, except the man on the bench, the two men on the benches that died, they didn't have strings attached to them. They had roots, though, that went deep into the earth that were blackened, and they weren't able to move. They're almost like they're petrified. And, however, all the people that seen this man had strings attached to them and were guided away from them, instead of, like, it's almost like they're manipulated into seeing them and then moved away without even really giving a second thought. Well, a part of their soul stayed behind and stayed looking at this man. And when that man died, their soul actually helped that man move on. So every single person that's seen that man, part of their soul stayed behind and looked at themselves in disgust and stayed behind to help that man, to pick him up after he passed away and brought him into a much better place. And these parts of these people never came back to them. They were disgusted by what they experienced and what they seen. They look at themselves with disgust, with frustration, with hatred, not hatred, but it's more disgust. It's like, how can you not help anyone anymore? How can you just walk past this? Can you not see what's happening all around you? And all they can do is, like, it's almost like saying, why don't you leave your phone in your house and go to work? And on your way to work, during work, after work, and just for 24 hours, don't even pick your phone up. Just shut it off. And if anybody tries to get a hold of you, all you can say is, I don't know, I lost my phone and my battery must have died. They're saying, do this. Do an experiment. And then try a week to do this. When you're going on vacation, leave your phone behind and go a week, 2 weeks without even looking at your phone. After 2 weeks, you're able to see the man on the bench. You're able to see the men on the bench. You're able to see a lot more than before. You could stop and choose and look and say, okay, I can make a decision. But a lot of these people don't even see the man on the bench. They don't even are aware of that this man that they stopped and looked at. They weren't even looking at him. They didn't even recognize him. Everybody's brainwashed into being guided and manipulated by energies that they're not even aware of, and this energy is through electronics. There's a God, like you can say, there's a God energy itself that actually manipulates people through cell phones, through TV, through any electronic device, and is becoming fatter and stronger and fatter and more disgusting, and the laughter is becoming really, 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 really loud. And we continue to allow this to happen. But by setting your phone down, not watching TV, just living your life in the way it used to be, you start to see things differently. You start to feel things differently. You start to see again. Because your mind is not occupied by something else that's unimportant. Your mind always wants to be occupied with something. So if you do nothing, your mind will occupy itself to do something else. It's quiet again, and I switch directions. This time it's to the west. It's interesting because they're showing me a society that's in handcuffs with blindfolds, with chains on their feet. And the world could look at this and doesn't do anything at all, just allows it to happen. Well, what can we do about it? There's nothing to do with us. But then these places become stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. And for some reason we continue to give them more and more and more and more and more and more money. So they become more powerful than ourselves. Listen to this for a second. We feed a society that enslaves its people, and we feed it money. More and more and more money. Society that enslaves its people, we give them so much money that they become stronger than the rest of the world. And we continue to give them money, even though we see that they're becoming stronger than us. We still give them money, even though they enslave the population. We continue to walk around with our cell phones, looking down, not seeing anything at all, even though there's a part of ourselves that truly understands it. There's not really much to say about that, is there? That almost feels like that's insanity. Or we want to be enslaved. I don't want to be enslaved. I don't think you do either. But we're supporting a society that does. We're buying unbelievable amount of products, supporting this, giving them all their money so they can become stronger. What do you think is going to become of that? Look to the east. There's a very dark cloud in the east. And there's lightning hitting the ground, and people can't see at all, actually. Even a darker cloud further east. It's jet black. The people are completely blind. They don't even see their neighbors. They don't even see the people beside them. But there's a voice that's here. That's whispering, and it's more like he's screaming, actually. But we hear it as a whisper, even though in the spirit realm it sounds like the whole earth is cracking from the sound of the voice. And the more we listen, the more we start to reflect what it is that the thing is saying. It's about destruction, it's about killing, it's about murdering, it's all about a destruction. Destroy, destroy, destroy everything. There's a big long pause. And there's you could say it's a galactic being that takes a hammer and hits the earth and moves the earth. The earth actually moves on its axis, and it's like a wake-up call. And everybody's cell phone shatters and falls onto the ground. And they're like, they got woken up out of a complete sleep. Like, what the hell? Was this a dream, or was we really living our lives like this? And the being that was laughing, that was holding his belly, stands up for once, but realizes it's so fat, it can't even stand up. It thought it stood up, but it was still sitting down. It doesn't even have any feet, his belly's so big. And this being with the actual hammer winds it up and smashes this being right in the gut. The being can't even defend itself because it's so fat, it didn't even realize it. And it just is a huge explosion of blood and guts all over the place. And this being turns into slime that's all over the walls, all over the floor. And the being just takes a match, because this stuff is flammable. And it just falls on the ground and everything bursts into flames, and this being walks away. And everybody's staring at their hands. It's like they just seen their hands for the first time. And the heartbeats start to beat in their chests. And they see again. It's almost like they're seeing things that they never ever could have seen before. Like, it was, how could we not have ever seen this? It's like everybody just woke up out of a dream. Is this even real? Did this even happen? And they take a step forward. And it's very awkward and very difficult to do. We take a step forward and another step forward. And then it becomes easier and easier and easier to take a step forward. And we stretch, and all this weight falls off our backs. And our eyes fall out onto the ground, and we step on them, because they weren't our eyes, or like contact lenses that were over our eyes, that had connections right into our mind, into our soul. And now we have to squint our eyes because everything is so bright. But when our eyes dim down, we're able to see the green of the grass and the trees, the blue of the sky. And we actually help the person off the bench, and we bring him into our homes, and we feed him, and we give him clothing. And the person is so thankful. He's able to finally go to an interview to get a job, because he's actually dressed nice, and he's able to live a normal life instead of dying on a bench alone, where nobody cared or nobody's seen. What kind of world do you want to live in? This is what this being says. It's time to wake up. And he didn't say wake up. It's just, it's time to wake that up. That was the message. I feel like a moment of just looking into this outer space for a while. Well, it's like I say, it's not the happiest message, but it is a very, very important message for the human race. Thank you very much, and if you wish to do a journey with me, you can visit my website, almonrosawakening.com. Joseph Bradley Roars, you'll watch or see some of my northern lights. Again, thank you everyone, and have a great weekend, and have a great new year. Take care.